The Importance of Being Earnest, a trivial comedy for serious people, is a play by Oscar Wilde. First performed on the 14th of February 1895 at the St. James's Theatre in London, it is a farcical comedy in which the protagonists maintain fictitious person to escape burdensome social obligations. Working within the social conventions of late Victorian London, the play's major themes are the triviality with which it treats institutions as serious as marriage, and the resulting satire of Victorian ways. Some contemporary reviews praised the play's humor and the culmination of Wilde's artistic career, while others were cautious about its lack of social messages. Its high farce and witty dialogue have helped make The Importance of Being Earnest Wilde's most enduringly popular play. The successful opening night marked the climax of Wilde's career but also heralded his downfall. The Marquis of Queensberry, whose son Lord Alfred Douglas was Wilde's lover, planned to present the writer with a bouquet of rotten vegetables and disrupt the show. Wilde was tipped off and Queensberry was refused admission. Their feud came to a climax in court, where Wilde's homosexuality was revealed to the Victorian public and he was sentenced to imprisonment. Despite the play's early success, Wilde's notoriety caused the play to be closed after 86 performances. After his release from prison, he published the play from exile in Paris, but he wrote no further comic or dramatic work. The Importance of Being Earnest has been revived many times since its premiere. It has been adapted for the cinema on 3 occasions. In The Importance of Being Earnest, 1952, Dame Edith Evans reprised her celebrated interpretation of Lady Bracknell. The Importance of Being Earnest, 1992, by Kurt Baker used an all-black cast, and Oliver Parker's The Importance of Being Earnest, 2002, incorporated some of Wilde's original material cut during the preparation of the original stage production. Critical reception. In contrast to much theatre of the time, The Importance of Being Earnest's light plot does not tackle serious social and political issues, something of which contemporary reviewers were wary. Though unsure of Wilde's seriousness as a dramatist, they recognized the play's cleverness, humor and popularity with audiences. 22. George Bernard Shaw, for example, reviewed the play in the Saturday Review, arguing that comedy should touch as well as amuse. I go to the theatre to be moved to laughter. 23. Later in a letter he said, the play, though extremely funny, was Wilde's first really heartless one. 24. In the World, William Archer wrote that he had enjoyed watching the play but found it to be empty of meaning. What can a poor critic do with a play which raises no principle, whether of art or morals, creates its own canons and conventions, and is nothing but an absolutely willful expression of an irrepressibly witty personality? 25. In The Speaker, A. B. Walkley admired the play and was one of few to see it as the culmination of Wilde's dramatic career. He denied the term farce was derogatory, or even lacking in seriousness, and said it is of nonsense all compact, and better nonsense, I think, our stage has not seen. 26. H. G. Wells, in an unsigned review for the Pall Mall Gazette, called Earnest one of the freshest comedies of the year, saying more humorous dealing with theatrical conventions it would be difficult to imagine. 27. He also questioned whether people would fully see its message. How serious people will take this trivial comedy intended for their learning remains to be seen. No doubt seriously. 27. The play was so light-hearted that many reviewers compared it to comic opera rather than drama. W. H. Auden later called it a pure verbal opera, and the Times commented, the story is almost too preposterous to go without music. 17. Mary McCarthy, in Sights and Spectacles, 1959, however, and despite thinking the play extremely funny, called it a ferocious idyll. Depravity is the hero and the only character. 28. The Importance of Being Earnest is Wilde's most popular work and is continually revived. 11. Max Beerbohm called the play Wilde's finest, most undeniably his own, saying that in his other comedies, Lady Windermere's Fan, a woman of no importance and an ideal husband, the plot, following the manner of Victorian Sardou, is unrelated to the theme of the work, while in Earnest the story is dissolved into the form of the play. The play is set in the present, that is 1895. 61. Act 1. Algernon Moncrieff's flat in Half Moon Street, W. Edit. The play opens with Algernon Moncrieff, an idle young gentleman, receiving his best friend, Jack Worthing, Earnest. Earnest has come from the country to propose to Algernon's cousin, Gwendolen Fairfax. Algernon refuses to consent until Earnest explains why his cigarette case bears the inscription, "From little Cecily, with her fondest love to her dear Uncle Jack." Earnest is forced to admit to living a double life. In the country, he assumes a serious attitude for the benefit of his young ward, the heiress Cecily Cardew, and goes by the name of John, or Jack, while pretending that he must worry about a wastrel younger brother named Earnest in London. In the city, meanwhile, he assumes the identity of the libertine Earnest. Algernon confesses a similar deception. He pretends to have an invalid friend named Bunbury in the country, whom he can visit whenever he wishes to avoid an unwelcome social obligation. Jack refuses to tell Algernon the location of his country estate. Gwendolen and her formidable mother Lady Bracknell now call on Algernon, who distracts Lady Bracknell in another room while Jack proposes to Gwendolen. She accepts, but seems to love him in large part because of his name, Earnest. Jack accordingly resolves to himself to be rechristened Earnest. Discovering them in this intimate exchange, Lady Bracknell interviews Jack as a prospective suitor. Horrified to learn that he was adopted after being discovered as a baby in a handbag at Victoria Station, she refuses him and forbids further contact with her daughter. Gwendolen manages to covertly promise to him her undying love. As Jack gives her his address in the country, Algernon surreptitiously notes it on the cuff of his sleeve. Jack's revelation of his pretty and wealthy young ward has motivated his friend to meet her. Act 2, The Garden of the Manor House, Walton. Cecily is studying with her governess, Miss Prism. Algernon arrives, pretending to be Ernest Worthing, and soon charms Cecily. Long fascinated by Uncle Jack's hitherto absent black sheep brother, she is predisposed to fall for Algernon in his role of Earnest, a name she is apparently particularly fond of. Therefore, Algernon, too, plans for the rector, Dr. Chasuble, to rechristen him Earnest. Jack has decided to abandon his double life. He arrives in full mourning and announces his brother's death in Paris of a severe chill, a story undermined by Algernon's presence in the guise of Earnest. Gwendolen now enters, having run away from home. During the temporary absence of the two men, she meets Cecily, each woman indignantly declaring that she is the one engaged to Earnest. When Jack and Algernon reappear, their deceptions are exposed. Act 3, Morning Room at the Manor House, Walton Edit. Arriving in pursuit of her daughter, Lady Bracknell is astonished to be told that Algernon and Cecily are engaged. The revelation of Cecily's wealth soon dispels Lady Bracknell's initial doubts over the young lady's suitability, but any engagement is forbidden by her guardian Jack. He will consent only if Lady Bracknell agrees to his own union with Gwendolen, something she declines to do. The impasse is broken by the return of Miss Prism, whom Lady Bracknell recognizes as the person who, 28 years earlier as a family nursemaid, had taken a baby boy for a walk in a perambulator, baby carriage, and never returned. Challenged, Miss Prism explains that she had absent-mindedly put the manuscript of a novel she was writing in the perambulator, and the baby in a handbag, which she had left at Victoria Station. Jack produces the very same handbag, showing that he is the lost baby, the elder son of Lady Bracknell's late sister, and thus Algernon's elder brother. Having acquired such respectable relations, he is acceptable as a suitor for Gwendolen after all. Gwendolen, however, insists she can love only a man named Earnest. Lady Bracknell informs Jack that, as the firstborn, he would have been named after his father, General Moncrieff. Jack examines the army lists and discovers that his father's name, and hence his own real name, was in fact Earnest. Pretense was reality all along. As the happy couples embrace, Jack and Gwendolen, Algernon and Cecily, and even Dr. Chasuble and Miss Prism. Lady Bracknell complains to her newfound relative, "My nephew, you seem to be displaying signs of triviality." "On the contrary, Aunt Augusta," he replies, "I've now realized for the first time in my life the vital importance of being earnest."